Hello, my fellow extraordinary Americans. My name is Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America? Well, you see, America has always been about freedom, opportunity, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt. Wealth and income inequality is the norm now, and the middle class has all but disappeared. So Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and the descendant of immigrants restoring the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through financial education. It is through becoming entrepreneurs and investors on the light side. In this podcast, I interview fellow Americans who fought against the odds. Many of them came from humble beginnings to see how they did it. It is my hope through these interviews that the extraordinary within you shall awaken and that you will abolish financial slavery from your life and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America. Welcome back to the show, my fellow extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Julia Mikk. Julia is an internationally renowned teacher, speaker, breath master, and the #1 Wall Street Journal best-selling author and the founder and the CEO of SOLignment Institute. In her private practice, Julia is a secret weapon behind many high-level leaders' success. She works with corporate executives, philanthropists, and impact-driven authorities to help them step into their global impact, create their legacy, and thrive in their health and relationships at the same time. In her more public persona, she trains successful coaches in the modality called SOLignment Process and offers certification courses worldwide. SOLignment Process is a proprietary method that has revolutionized the peak performance industry, and it uses breath, nervous system regulation, and trauma reprogramming to release even the most entrenched self-sabotaging mindsets, burnouts, and illnesses from the body. SOLignment Institute's mission is to create 10,000 extraordinary leaders, coaches, and SOLignment facilitators, empowering them to share the full power of their talent with at least 30,000 people in their lifetime. Julia is what I would call an extraordinary American, and I'm honored to have her on this show. Julia, are you there?
Yes, so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Julia, it is an honor to have you on the show, and I know that you're an extremely successful entrepreneur. You're a coach, and you're a #1 best-selling author. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Yes. Well, I have been in this business over 20 years, and I started really with my own healing journey. I was really depressed when I was a teenager. I was anorexic. I had tremendous amount of self-hatred, and I was lost. And I just needed something else. So I started searching, reading books, going to workshops, doing self-help seminars, and nothing really helped. I did talk therapy and learned to meditate and yoga, and really nothing helped until I came to this workshop that was on breathing. It was called spiritual breathing at that time, and it completely changed my life. It was like a 3-day event, and already in the first day, when I did this whole powerful healing session with the breath, I felt changed. I felt like reborn. I was like a new person. And the reason why it was so profound is because I remembered my true nature, is what I call it. I remembered who I am, deeper than personality, deeper than my ego, deeper than the body, deeper than my life experience. I realized that I'm so much bigger and greater than any of that. And that put me on a whole new path. And then I realized, wow, if this is who I am, I'm this bigness, greatness, love, peace. How can I stay here? How can I not lose it? Because old habits wanted to come back in and old fears. And I dedicated my whole life to learning how to not lose this state of remembering. I call it like a state of remembering who we really are. And that put me on a path, especially with the breath, because my first awakening was through the power of the breath. And I started studying it. What does it mean to change our state through the breath? And how can I use the breath to change my nervous system's functioning, change my brain, change my subconscious, change how much oxytocin, dopamine, or endorphins are excreted in every moment. So I became a lover of breath. And from there, SOLignment Breath Process was born. I called it SOLignment because it's about somatic alignment with the power of who we really are.
Well,
So that's
Julia,
a little bit of a beginning of my journey.
so I have so many questions to ask you here, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about is breath, because I'm into yoga meditation myself, and they have this thing called pranayama, where if there's a concept where if you slow your breath down to a large extent, it actually gets rid of the restlessness of your mind. And when faster breathing leads to more anxiety and stress and all of that, and there's like a great correlation between that. And it's a common knowledge in the East, but over here, a lot of people have like they do anxiety meditation medications and they go to the doctor to get pills and all that stuff. But a lot of people don't realize the importance of breath. So for the sake of like our audience, can you tell our audience a little bit more about how breath affects our everyday life and how it can affect their business as an extension?
Yeah. So my perspective on the breath is very unique and different from most other breath works and pranayams taught there. A lot of pranayam is really breath control. So there are many different ways to control the breath, as you said, to calm your mind, sleep better, find more peace. In SOLignment breath process, that's not our goal. In SOLignment breath process, we actually want to let go of control. We actually want to do the opposite than most pranayams teach us. And the reason for that is that in SOLignment process, when we let go of control, we let go of the ego, the mind, the personality, the life experience. And it's like this very deep inner journey when the person literally experiences the full power and infinite nature of their soul. And when they're there, it's not something they read from a book or heard from a friend. It's their own direct experience. But for that, we need to let go of the doer and we need to let go of the doing. So it's a mysterious process, but there's also clear structure to it. I'm not here to teach you how to do the whole technology of SOLignment breath process, but it really is about learning to go into deeper place within ourselves that's bigger than the mind, bigger than what we have learned, bigger than what we give to the world, bigger than our life. And from that place, there's so much courage and power and generosity to bring our gift to the world fully. And that's the place also where our intuition and gut knowing kicks in the most. It's like a psychic place. Like when my clients go to that place, they know exactly. They know the next step to take, the next person to call. Sometimes they get a whole vision of the business plan. Some people have like gotten clear on the modality. Like I have my own modality I'm birthing through me into the world. But it comes from that place of like a psychic knowing inside of them that's actually their own soul. So that's what my version of working with the breath is about.
Julia, I love that you're mentioning the practical application of this thing because a lot of people think that yoga meditation is just like something that you do like as a hobby or as a pastime. But you and I both know that as like in terms of entrepreneurship and business, but like being centered on yourself and like basically going deep within and going from that place of peace and knowing can make a huge difference in your work life. So for the sake of like that thing, could you tell the audience a little bit more about how being centered within yourself can actually be practical in terms of like starting a business and all of that?
Mm-hmm. I have a couple of different ways to speak of it. I'm going to first share a story. I worked with someone who was actually already very successful as an entrepreneur. He had many people working for him. He had an internationally renowned company, and he had VIP clients he was serving. They were paying him a lot of money, and he was working with them one-on-one to expand their businesses. And he was working with me one-on-one at that time. And I think it was just after third or fourth session, he comes back to me. He says, Julia, this is amazing what happened after my last session with you. After we did this SOLignment breath process, I went home and I knew immediately an answer to my client's problem I never knew. I was always in the mystery how to solve it. It was this challenge I couldn't figure out how to overcome. And all of a sudden, it was crystal clear. And I was amazed that I could not see it. Like, what boggles my mind is, how could I not see it? It was so obvious. And then he, processed it more, and he came to a realization it's because his ego, his fears, his overthinking, his anxiety was actually getting in the way to that inner clarity and brilliance that he had inside of him. So I say that whatever your service, role, job is in the world, you will be so much greater. You will be so much more in your genius when you can actually access the power of your true being. And that power is the place where there's no fear, no imposter syndrome, no holding yourself back. It's an actual freedom and power to be the leader you're meant to be. And I think it's the same thing applies to people that are just starting. Like, maybe you're still in 9 to 5 and you want to step into being an entrepreneur and being successful at it. The same thing, like, that requires courage. To step into a whole new career and do something you have never done before takes an enormous amount of courage. And I would add also power and confidence. And where you're going to find it, you're not going to find it in your thinking, analytical mind. Some people in the beginning of the spiritual journey, they use positive affirmations. I used to use them a lot, and they help to a degree, but it's all in the mind. Like, I am powerful, I am powerful, I can do it, I can do it. But underneath that positive, wonderful affirmation could be full on anxiety and fear. So in my work, I am passionate about helping people embody and feel that power, courage, freedom, and confidence. And then they can create pretty much anything they want. Whatever you set your goal to be, you can reach it.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that, Julie, because a lot of people, they do want to achieve a lot of goals, but they're not able to do so because their ego and all their fears and insecurities get in the way. And basically, what they don't realize is that sometimes it's like a type of spiritual practice, or like as you mentioned, like it's like breath control. And it's something as simple as that that can make the difference, because it's all about mastery of your thoughts and emotions and like the way your body functions, because there's a saying in spirituality, like your glands secrete the right hormones, and then the hormones affect the different body parts, and then they are responsible for fear and anxiety and all that. And if you control those glands, you can control the emotions that you're feeling. And a lot of people think that this is just like it's just kind of like a pseudoscience, but it's been there for thousands of years, and in the East, they practice that a lot.
Oh, 100%. And this actually, now there's a lot of research around it. Like, there's a lot of research that proves all this to be true. They have monitored what happens with people's brain when they meditate, or when they breathe deeply, or when they change the state of the mind. Like, it's all monitored. There are even books written nowadays about it. And I would say, for me, what's most important is the proof of one's own life. Like, when I work with clients, sometimes I give them like a survey so they can be motivated, but ultimately it's the proof. Like, if you have not been able to write a book, and after working with me, you can write a book, what surveys are needed for that? You just prove to yourself how much more you can create when you know how to be in your power, freedom, and confidence within. And that does require shifting how our nervous system functions. It does require repatterning our brain. And I also work with the subconscious. So it's like the golden triad. Actually, I work with the 4. I'm going to go a little woo-woo here. I'm going to mention the 4th. But the first one is nervous system, rewiring. Second one is repatterning the brain. Third one is working with the subconscious, because that's where all our limiting beliefs actually live. So we need to be able to work on that level. And the 4th one I work with is actually how our ancestral lineage is affecting our capacity to create whatever we want now. Because our ancestors and epigenetics absolutely have tremendous influence on us. And most people have no idea. Most people just like walk around with this heavy blanket over them. And then they wonder, why I'm not successful? Why can't they make courageous decisions? And this blanket could be really everything that happened in the ancestral lineage that they are carrying and shouldn't be carrying.
Well, so Julia, there's one thing I wanted to ask you about, like reprogramming your subconscious mind, and because a lot of people will hear that and they'll be like really scared because a lot of their identities and their emotional attachments are linked in their subconscious mind. And to basically transform that, reparent, and I totally agree with you, like that's what you got to do to be successful because you got to be the best version of yourself. But a lot of people have fear of changing the identity of who they are. They're afraid that if they do that, they'll basically lose a part of themselves. So how would you go about advising somebody with these kind of fears?
So tell me a little more. Why would somebody have a fear?
Because they might lose their identity in the process of like their understanding of who they are or their belief systems, and in their subconscious mind a lot of their belief systems. And I'm just getting deep over here because this is like
Mm.
central to a lot of people, like where the entire belief system is in their subconscious mind, and if you change one thing it just alters the way they see the world altogether, and they'll just go into a phase that they don't know what to do, you know.
Won't take it because they would rather hold on to the old familiar suffering. And I often say that the ego and the mind are on the job of holding on.
um, Jill,
I might get cancer, right? I might drown. Like unknown is full of everything that could happen. And that is terrifying for the ego mind. So again, that's why when I help people step into the center and power of the being in that place of felt sense power, they have courage to face the unknown and it doesn't scare them. It just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, I started working a lot of joy, a lot of aliveness.
um
He's like, yeah, of course I want it, of course. But it's such a good question you're asking because many people are actually scared of their own power and of their own
um yeah, Julia, the last question, there was like a disturbance in the
Oh,
internet connection, but we'll just continue ahead. I wanted to ask you, Julia, about so I wanted to ask you about your overall vision, and like I know you came as an immigrant from Estonia. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about the evolution of how your vision and career evolved from there to coming to America, and like how like your life transformed as a result?
mm. Listen to it and follow it. And he said something that is this day that the voice that's irrational is most likely the voice of your inner guidance.
Mhm.
But rational, a greater mystery. As I left Estonia, because I had this completely irrational calling to go to America. But I had this deep pull that was irrational, and I chose to follow it because at that time I was deeply devoted to learning about this thing called inner guidance. Like what happens wisdom. Truly laboratory, listening to this inner wisdom to see what happens when I do.
Julia, can you hear me? I think there's like a disturbance in the connection.
Disturbance again?
Yeah.
What do you want to do about it? Is it on your side?
Yeah, I think now it's better. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah, I see that your internet keeps coming.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get this part cut out and then I'll just ask you the
Right
question
now.
again.
Yeah, right now you stopped. So, oh, now I can see you.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes. Yeah, but your internet shows red. So your internet isn't very strong there where you
I
are right
see.
now.
Okay. Okay, I can see you. I can see you now.
Okay. I wonder how it will get recorded.
I'll basically ask them to remove this part of the audio, and then we'll continue. We'll just continue from there. Like let me re-ask the question. So, Julia, I know you came as an immigrant from Estonia. So can you tell me a little bit more about your overall career and vision, how you came from, like how it evolved from there to being in America?
Yeah, I basically just followed my intuition. I was very much devoted to learning about this thing called inner guidance. I was curious what will happen if I just follow this inner guidance and that's all I do. It was like my own laboratory. And this inner guidance that was irrational, that just pulled me forward, pulled me to be in America. It pulled me to land in New Orleans. That was the first city I landed in. It pulled me into creating my own healing practice. I first started as a healer, just leading people through a very deep level of trauma healing. And everything started coming together. And it was really always every step along the way, following my inner guidance. That was like my number one thing, because for me, inner guidance is my higher self, is my most empowered, biggest, courageous self. And all I have to do is follow that part, not follow fear or anxiety or self-doubt, but follow the part that's free. And one of the things that actually happened, I was living in New Orleans, totally happy. I had friends, I had the work I loved. I started making money by helping people heal from very deep traumatic events in their lives. And all of a sudden, this inner guidance says, it's time to leave New Orleans. And I was like, why? Why? I'm happy here. I don't want to go anywhere. And this inner guidance was so clear. It said, you gotta go. And I did not understand why. Like, this was so not my mind or my ego making this decision. And then I asked, so where do you want me to go? It said Ashland, Oregon. I barely even knew where Oregon was. I had to look it up on the map. I think I read it somewhere once that Ashland, Oregon even existed. And all of a sudden I had to go there. It was completely irrational. It wasn't my analytical mind making a plan. It was a deeper wisdom leading the way. And what happened is that when I left and I arrived to Oregon, about 30 days later, Katrina hurricane hit New Orleans.
Wow,
And
that is crazy.
everything was destroyed. The place where I lived was under the water, destroyed. You know, it was catastrophe. Katrina hurricane was a real full-on catastrophe. And I was saved from it simply by this wisdom of my inner guidance. And when that happened in my life, I became like a complete devotee of my inner guidance. I was like, whatever you say, I'm going to do it. Whatever you say, I'm doing it. Because I could see that it truly always protects me and provides for me. It's like the psychic GPS that all of us have. Just most people have no clue how to listen to it. And they have no clue how to listen to it is because they're anxious, they're in fear, they're overthinking, and their nervous systems are dysregulated. So in that state, it's almost impossible to hear this very wise GPS that wants to show you the way every day. So
Julia,
that's why when I work with highest level of leaders, they could be very successful, but a lot of the success has been created by their mind, by their personality, by their knowledge. And to go to the next level, they have to tap into completely different knowledge and wisdom. And they have to learn how to access that gut instinct that will take them to a completely new level of success, wealth, and legacy.
no, what you said is just astounding because you basically listen to your inner intuition, and a lot of people have this inner knowing where it tells them what to do on an intuitive level, but they don't listen to that. And for a lot of people, like it's really difficult for them to access that. So, from your perspective, how would people learn to trust their intuition and like gain the ability to gain access to it more frequently?
Good question. So there are different ways I could talk about it, but right now I'm actually called to talk about it from the perspective of nervous system. So we have three branches of nervous system. Most people think we have only two. Most people think we have sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic. But we also have actually the third branch, which is called social nervous system branch. And that's a new discovery. It's actually discovered by Stephen Porges, this amazing scientist that was studying vagus nerve and how vagus nerve actually has three branches and how it connects to the autonomic nervous system. The reason I'm talking about these three branches is because a lot of people are actually in sympathetic overwhelm when they have too much sympathetic nervous system charge. That's when they're burnt out, they're anxious, they're afraid, they're in flight and fight. So most leaders and entrepreneurs are in that state. And that's a dysregulated state that actually makes it very hard to think clearly, to have courage, to have peace, to know that all is well. You don't feel many positive things when you're burnt out, basically. Then there's a parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system can be very healthy, but some people are in parasympathetic collapse. It's an actual official term, parasympathetic collapse. And that means that they have pushed too hard. They were too long in the sympathetic overwhelm that they crashed and they collapsed into complete exhaustion. And in a place of exhaustion, they lose motivation, they lose desire to live sometimes. They definitely don't have any passion. There is no desire to take action. They're in a collapse. So they become couch potatoes or depressed. And some people are in that state. So in that state, it's impossible to take any powerful action or create what you want. So now the third branch of the nervous system is really important because in social nervous system, what happens is that when that branch is online and it's functioning well, we feel safe. We feel safe. We feel a sense of belonging, that all is well. We are protected. We are provided for. It's a felt sense experience. And a cool thing about the social nervous system is when we are in that state of safety and belonging, the sympathetic branch and parasympathetic branch automatically come to balance. So you come out of exhaustion, all of a sudden you have energy and passion and excitement to take action. And you come out of that anxiety and fight and flight, you relax to be in the zone that I call genius zone. It's actually a genius zone where we have power to take action, but we have also ability to relax, rejuvenate, and feel really good in our skin. And when we are in the state, when we feel safe, comfortable, belonging, powerful, we can create anything. Then really nothing can stand in the way. The fear is gone, anxiety is gone, imposter syndrome is gone. You're in the genius zone. I have a whole chart on that, but I'm not going to go into the chart now. So when I'm showing it with the hands, it's really how the chart shows. There's a genius zone, but you can leave the genius zone by going into sympathetic overwhelm or into parasympathetic collapse. And in either of these, you're not in your genius zone. You're not functioning very well as a human adult.
Julia, you literally blew up my brain and my nervous system away. Like that is amazing. That's an amazing insight. And I just had like a revelation that I wanted to like share with you while we're at it. It's that you realize that basically, like most people, they like life is happening to like to them, where you have all these events that are happening outside, and then they're reacting in reacting mode, and then they think that the outside events are basically influencing the way they're feeling and acting. But what we're getting at over here is that if you master your nervous system through whatever process, like whether it's like a scientific type of yoga meditation or the Soul Institute programming process, you can basically respond to outside environments the way you want to respond. And
Yes, the way you want to respond. Exactly.
it's
You actually
basically
get to have what you want.
yeah,
So many people I work with, so many entrepreneurs, leaders, they're like, I want this. I want to take action, but they never do. Well, there's a gap. Like all have a human capacity to actually do what we want to do. And it's a problem that so many people, they want something and they can't take action on it, or they collapse halfway through, or they give up, or they lose interest. Of course, they're not going to create the success they want if that's the pattern. Like I had someone who came to my 3-day event. I sometimes offer these 3-day weekend immersions, and she was already a pretty successful coach, but she wasn't making as much money as she wanted, and she didn't have as many clients as she wanted. And she kept trying taking action to be more successful, more seen, more visible, and nothing was working. Like whatever action she took, like had no real results. She kept planting seeds, but no flower ever blossomed. And energetically in the nervous system, once she came to the event, she realized she actually had been living in collapse pretty much her entire life. And collapse is that state where it's hard to take powerful action. It's hard to have courage. It's hard to have passion. And it's almost impossible to have confidence. So all we had to do for her is to re-regulate the nervous system, take her out of the collapse into her genius zone. And all of a sudden, whatever she did had actual power behind it. People could see it, feel it, be amazed by it. And she had real confidence to show to the world. And all we did was shifting and rewiring the nervous system functioning.
wow. Like
And she
again,
actually quadrupled her income. So 12 months later, I checked in with her. Like, how are you doing? How is life? She was like, Julia, you would not believe this. Since that event, my income quadrupled. I don't exactly know how, but I just did my books and I made 4 times more money than I have ever done before. And it started after that event. So the
wow.
real results speak for themselves.
Like Julia, I'm actually thinking of this on like a national context. Like, like a lot of Americans, they want to find their American dream and they want to realize their American dream, like whatever it is, whether it's their house or their vision of what the ideal life is. But they have all these challenges like on an individual level to overcome. Like, how do you think the knowledge of the nervous system and its application, as you're mentioning, can help Americans on a mass level basically attain whatever they want to attain from your perspective?
Nervous system so much because it makes it very down to earth. Every human knows they have a nervous system. It's proven, it's in the books. They have studied it in school, at least to a degree. So it makes it less woo-woo. And for many people, I have noticed when it's not woo-woo, they experience it as much
I like you use the word woo because that's
woo-woo.
because that's what a lot of people think when it comes to this, but no, it's super practical. And
Yeah, yeah. I can speak in very woo-woo terms too, but I would rather speak in terms that people can trust, understand, and implement. And when I teach about nervous system, I have actual charts people can look at. It all makes sense. It's very logical. And when they see it, they're inspired. They're like, what? I can shift my. So I would say There are many tools out there. One of my favorite ones is rewiring the nervous system, and another favorite one is breath. Our nervous system.
No, Julia, that's awesome. I actually wanted to ask you a little bit about like, so I know you had like a best-selling book called Limitless that you
Yeah.
you wrote some time back. Can you tell me, the audience, a little bit more about that book and the premise and how you went about writing it?
Mm. Limitless book is what I wrote with my friends. There are several people there sharing about their personal journey of becoming limitless, or their own version of limitless. And my story is there about my life, how I moved through my limitations, my blocks, my self-sabotage to feel limitless in creating the reality the way I want to. I don't believe limitless has like an end goal, like now I'm limitless and that's it. There's no more to grow or expand. I believe we can continuously become more limitless. But ultimately, for me, limitlessness is our true nature. It's who we already are,
Um,
underneath the layers of anxiety, underneath the layers of old trauma, underneath the layers of being upset with someone. We actually already are limitless. But it is a journey to return back home to who we really are. So that book talks about that from many different perspectives.
Wow. So like what is basically like you believe that we are ultimately limitless, because it's a very interesting concept that you mentioned over here, because a lot of people feel limited and trapped within their own minds and within their own emotions. Like they have this emotional state and they have these belief systems and patterns of thinking that they just cannot get out of. But what you're basically suggesting is that we can transcend that, and it's a very interesting concept, you know?
I'm saying that we are meant to transcend that. We are meant to transcend that. We are designed to transcend that. And what's really smart and helpful to transcend that is to receive support from people who already have transcended that. So people who are like a step ahead of you or two steps doesn't mean they're better. They just know the way towards what you want. And let yourself be supported by those that know how to transcend those limitations. That has been a very big part of my journey. So I didn't mean to leave an impression that I like magically have done everything by myself, like everything came to me on its own. I have had many, many spiritual mentors, healers, coaches, subconscious reprogrammers, and each one of them actually helped me remember more and more fully who I was and who I am. So I'm a huge believer in receiving support. And I think receiving support and professional support is not weakness, it's actually wisdom. And my main challenge with American society is that it's so hyper independent here. People are on antidepressants just because they're not willing to receive support. They would rather take drugs instead of receiving help and support from those that could help them. And that's like an epidemic in this culture. I love American culture for many reasons. There are many wonderful things about being here. I adore people here. But this one thing is definitely a challenge, because when there's this mentality that I have to do it alone, I have to figure it out by myself, that means I'm strong. You're not going to get very far. That's one of the most limiting beliefs that keep people from succeeding.
No, I mean it's true. Like like it's something that I noticed. Like even when I was born in India myself, but I noticed in India it's a more of like a family and collective culture, whereas in America it's a very individualistic culture, and then people don't want they don't want to take help, you know, because it's kind of like a shame in that. But it's something that I noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. And America is one of the countries that has the highest level of pharmaceutical antidepressant use per capita. And this is the country where there's most independence praised. So there is maybe a connection. Independence, lots of antidepressants. And of course, there's a healthy version of independence too, but the hyper independence, people go into the sympathetic overwhelm, they get into the burnt out state because they think they have to do it all by themselves. And then they become anxious, there's flight and fight, they're irritable, they're angry, they don't feel well, they get sick. One of the things I do with entrepreneurs and leaders, I mean, there are different layers of transformation we go through, but one of the layers is, what does it mean to receive support and have a team around you? Actually team to answer your email, or I don't know, clean your office or do your bookkeeping, because you don't have to do it yourself on your own. And for so many people, it's like this radical idea. Like, what? I could have a team? And I'm saying you're meant to have a team, especially when you have important things to do in this world and you have an important mission to manifest. You must have a team to be in your greatness. And when I bring it, then we get to see all the limiting beliefs that try to not have the team and support. And then we need to work through those limiting beliefs and release them so the person can actually have the support they need and deserve.
Julia, I think what you're doing is really amazing because literally it is kind of like the solution to antidepressants and pharmaceuticals in a whole thing. But like if you went big, like yeah, I think a lot of like pharmaceuticals, like they'll start going out of business in a way because what you're teaching about the nervous system can actually prevent, is actually the root cause which can solve a lot of the reasons why people take antidepressants in the first place.
100%. I mean, when I work with clients, a lot of physical illness tends to go away, a lot of pain leaves the body. But one thing that happens is that people who are on antidepressants, they all of a sudden just feel that they can go off of them. And I'm not a doctor. I never suggest it. I'm like, you do whatever you want with your antidepressants, talk to your doctor. But because they end up feeling so regulated in the nervous system and they find so much peace, they all of a sudden realize they don't need antidepressants any longer. They run it by the doctor and they go off of them and they're happy, thriving human being without them. And it's never like my goal. I have, important things to do when it comes to helping them manifest their mission and legacy. But as we do that, they end up going off the antidepressants often because they start thriving in a natural way.
So, so Julia, can you tell the audience a little bit more about your Soul Institute, Soul Alignment Institute, and also like the event that you're doing in October?
Yeah. Well, what can I say? SOLignment Institute is focused on giving leadership trainings and certification courses. So we have a year-long leadership training that is also a certification course where people can learn to facilitate SOLignment breath process to their clients, to their patients. We have successful coaches who come and want to up-level their skills to create profound breakthroughs for their clients. And we have beginner coaches who come and they just want to learn how to heal people and how to heal themselves. So they can go through a whole year-long study process that's extremely transformational for them personally, but they also learn a lot of technologies, tools, and skills, how to heal even the deepest trauma and how to create lasting results in a way where the person doesn't fall back into old habits, fears, and limiting tendencies. So SOLignment Breath Process is known for creating results that last and creating results fast. So people who love learning that, they come join us. That's what SOLignment Institute is for. And the 3-day event that you mentioned, I offer once a year, sometimes twice a year. And I'm really excited that it's coming up right now, soon again. It's going to take place October 20th to 22nd in Denver, Colorado. And we open some spots to online participants too. But this 3 days is truly life-changing. Like, I don't know a better word to use than life-changing. I feel like the word life-changing is so overused. I don't know a better word to say because it actually is. It's like a rebirth. People give birth to who they actually are. We clear ancestral lineage to a large degree. So whatever is burdening the person from the childhood or the ancestors is actually let go of. We repattern the brain so it can excrete oxytocin, dopamine, endorphins on much higher levels, which allows them to be in peak performance state. And we rewire the nervous system. So we talked a little bit about nervous system today, how to shift the nervous system functioning so the person can live without fear, without not feeling good enough, without self-sabotage, because that's important for somebody to live their greatest purpose and make a difference on a global scale. So that's what this 3-day event is for. It's called Enrich. It's an incredible community of healers, coaches, speakers, leaders who is coming together. There's a lot of networking happening, family. It's like a soul family gathering. New friends are made, and a very deep level healing and transformation happens. So I'd love to invite your audience, come join us anytime.
Julia, that is so awesome, and I would definitely recommend my audience to basically take a look at SOLignment Institute and what it does, and also like this event as well. And Julia, how can our audience connect with you and get to know more about you and what you're doing?
So solignment.com, 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 and then you'll see there's very simple menu. You can go to Enrich if you call to do the 3-day event with us. It's called Enrich, and then you learn everything you need there. And you can always contact me via social media. Some people love social media. Send me a DM anytime. I'm happy to meet new people, answer questions, get to know them. Always welcome you.
That is awesome, Julia. I want to let you know that it was amazing having you in this show, and what you shared with us regarding the nervous system and rewiring the subconscious mind. It is truly like it's revolutionary in its aspect, because yes, you cannot control what's going on in the world and like how it is affecting you, but what you can control is how you respond to the environment, and it comes through centering around yourself and mastering your own mind and your emotions and your nervous system. So what you shared with us is so amazing, and I'm so honored to have you on the show. And I would want you to come back at a later time. If
Anytime. I love being here. And want to just send my love to your audience, people who are listening to this or watching this. I mean, you are here because you want to step into something greater in your life. And just this desire, this impulse is so potent and so special. So I just want to celebrate you all.
Thank you so much, Julia. And I want to conclude this show by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us. It's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now. Hey there, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets you free. Also remember that your purchasing power is being diluted through inflation, and then the practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power by investing in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Also, never forget that you are an